Welcome to Mingling with the Municipality. I'm Doug Roxburgh, and as you know, once a month we sit down with the municipal leaders to discuss ongoing issues within the region of Wood Buffalo. The questions also come from you, because if you follow us on Twitter at ShawTV4MC and use the hashtag AskShawYMM, you can ask your questions and we'll voice them to these leaders. Joining us today is Nick Sanders from the Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, you're welcome, Doug.
We're sitting on location at the Parsons Creek development area where houses are being built, interchanges are being built. Now this is an ongoing process because there's going to be big box retailers in this area, a huge overpass which is about to be built. Can we just elaborate on this a little bit?
Yeah, so this area up here, Parsons Creek, is slated to be 3 phases. Phase 1 is where we are currently in. It's supposed to accommodate about 8,000, then phase 2 another 8,000, and I believe there's a phase 3 with about another 8,000. So there's going to be a total of about 25,000 people living up here. Of course, that will mean schools and everything else. And in order to access this area, the government of Alberta is building a new overpass, Parsons Creek Overpass, which for those of us that travel north to the oil sands are passing through that construction zone. And the phase 1 of that is supposed to be completed in the fall of 2015. And we've heard lots of government people make their solid commitment for our community to that overpass.
Well, that's very good information on the overpass, but we're curious about retail space. Will that be developed at the same time down in Parsons Creek?
Well, that's what's currently happening right now. Government of Alberta is in negotiations now with the region municipality Wood Buffalo. I believe 2 weeks ago they had some open houses that were down at the Saw Ridge, and there was some good feedback provided by the community, and that's really what we're looking for that to be, is a big box store. Some of the things that we don't have in this community, so such as like electronics, those kinds of things, large electronic stores and those things like that, we could certainly use it.
Okay, now will that be built at the same time as the overpass?
Well, that's going to roughly depend on how quickly Government of Alberta and Region Municipality Wood Buffalo get the land available to developers so they can then develop it. And then hopefully what the Chamber's asking for is that they put some covenants on the back end to make sure that the developer gets it to the market and gets it built as quickly as possible.
Speaking of retail, Janet has a question regarding retail stores.
Hi, my name is Janet Baker. I'm wondering what type of retail stores we can expect that will be coming to Fort McMurray anytime soon.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that are kicking tires, for our community, because they do realize there's, we're currently about 1 million square feet short of retail commercial space. So the objective from our perspective is, let's make sure we have a place where the bigger box stores can locate. Not the smaller ones so much, but more the bigger ones, such as, and I'm just throwing some of these names out, such like a Future Shop or something like that, something that hopefully the people that will come in will be what we currently don't have in our community, because that would certainly be a positive. I know everybody wants a Costco, but that's not quite sure if that's going to happen, but I think there'll be lots of opportunities for some of the bigger box store names to come in and hopefully locate at that site.
Just speaking of these bigger box retailers coming in, I mean, doesn't that add another element for people kind of staying within the community of Fort McMurray?
That's the whole thing is, the Chamber strongly believes that, you earn here, spend it here, and we need to create a more robust commercial market for our citizens. So they don't have to go down the road to Highway 63, go down to Edmonton. Let's spend it here.
And speaking of retail development, down over at Eagle Ridge, there's 2 vacant parcels of land that's going to be rezoned. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, that's happening tonight at the council meeting, just across on the corner of Luted and Eagle Ridge Road, I believe on the opposite side from where the current Tim Hortons is. There's a parcel of land that is going before council tonight, first reading, that they want to change that from, I think it was high density residential to more of a mix of commercial and potentially some residential as well. So that's going before council tonight. I'm not quite sure if it still includes residential, but I know there's a big push on there to change that into commercial.
So this could be a huge step in basically commercialization for Fort McMurray and developing that land.
Well, you know, you look at what's happened on the opposite side with the Tim Hortons, and our second dry cleaner now is, and a restaurant, and if you look at what's going on in Stone Creek with the Shoppers Drug Mart, some of the other places opening up there, we're starting to see some of that commercial development now starting to take place, and it is needed. It is needed in our community.
So moving on to housing, Sherry has an important one.
Hi, my name is Sherry, and I'm curious if the house prices are going to drop in the future.
That's a little bit of a tough question to answer. We're currently not seeing anything. The realtors probably would be a better place to start with that. But you know, if you look around here, all these houses are being built. People are living in them. So I think there's still pent-up demand. When you have a geographical area where we generate between 8 and 9% of Canada's gross national product, you know, there's going to be people who want to move up here and want to raise their families here. And this town is becoming more and more a family town, and a young family town.
A big question is there's been a lot of illegal basement suites, but there's also a bylaw out for something like that, isn't there?
Well, there currently, you can build legal suites within the Region Municipality with Buffalo. That was put in place, I think, prior to 2006 because, you know, the Region Municipality, Mayor and Council saw that there was going to be a need for more residents in this community, so they created that bylaw to allow the legal suites, which is working not too badly. The only thing is sometimes we get a few too many vehicles on the roads, but hopefully they'll come up with a better solution on that pretty soon. Regarding the illegal suites, you know, it's kind of hard to answer that one in any way, shape, or form. Chamber is a big proponent of, as long as they're legal suites. We have some concern that they also need to address then the increased parking that's happening on our residential streets, and we're hoping that they come up with potentially some what we call some off-site resolutions where people can park a little bit off-site and still allow the rest of the residents in the neighborhood to be able to get through.
Another thing is owning a home can be tricky in Fort McMurray, because becoming a homeowner certainly means having tenants due to these excessive house prices, right? It's kind of like a catch-22. House prices are huge, then you have to have tenants in them as well. Do you see people having trouble affording these houses because of the land issue?
I don't, you know, I think the Region Municipalities try to address that by having legal tenant suites, whereby people can still afford the homes, have a legal tenant in the basement, help them pay off the mortgage, and still see a light at the end of the tunnel, and still have a good, reasonable quality of life. Yes, our mortgages are higher here, but also the average family wages here are significantly higher. We have a higher disposable income than lots of other communities in our, not only in our province, but also in our country. So it's one of those things, you earn, you have a higher wage, but there's also some drawbacks on that. One of them is the housing.
Now, speaking of affordability, we talk about the whole urban center as a whole, and Darren has an important one on the development of Fort McMurray.
My name is Darren Katarinich, and my question is why are we promoting the high density downtown model when we live in Alberta in a high density, or vast amounts of land, and why are we promoting this high density Vancouver model?
Well, I think for our community, because we have an opportunity to do it differently and hopefully do it right, it would make sense from a community perspective. We have a combination of both. But this would just more my personal opinion is don't think it's one size fits all. I think we need more a balanced approach, and whatever that looks like. Lots of families do still come up here and would like to own their own home, and we want to make sure that they have an opportunity to realize that dream in this community. Others may just want to, have a more of a urban downtown kind of a feel, and then we should make those available as well. I think they can both coexist. I think our town is robust enough that they can both coexist.
I don't know if you have a comment on basically the land. There's a lot of land that was just released, right? Is that going to continue to happen within Wood Buffalo?
Well, you know, we have to give the mayor and council and administration a lot of credit for getting that deal done. That deal between the government of Alberta and our municipality, you know, from our perspective, from the Chamber's perspective, is a big step in the right direction, where they were able to get the urban service area enlarged and make all this land available, do that swap of the land, access to the land, and the twinning of the road below the airport, all those kinds of steps that were part of that deal. You know, we've got to give our mayor and council administration a lot of credit, because I believe that that deal is going to help address a lot of the issues that we've suffered through for the last 10, 15 years. I think it's a great step in the right direction. We are fully behind it, fully support it. Now the big push for us is how quickly can we get this land out to the developers so we can get things built and continue to move this community forward.
And moving it forward, as you can see, Parsons Creek is 25,000 people being put in Parsons Creek.
Yeah, so that's once phase 3 gets completed. So we're hoping that the regional municipality is going to release the rest of the land that's behind us here for phase 1 to allow the developers to get in and start building and fill all this empty space up here as quickly as we possibly can. And then hopefully we're also pushing for them to start doing the deep surface in phase 2, which would be, you know, your water, your sewer, your roads, make sure the utilities are up here and things like that. So, because we can't stop. We got to continually keep going, because the oil sands are not going to go away. They're going to be here for a long time, and we have to make sure that this community is ready for the people that work up there, and that we have a family community for the employees and all the ancillary employers and employees, for them to be able to live in this community, because it is a great community by far.
And it's one of the fastest growing communities in Canada as well.
Yep.
Now the downside is now I do have friends that work up in the oil sands.
Right.
Now some of them have shifted to a 7-on, 7-off type of schedule where it's a fly in, fly out. Now does that raise any concerns just for the development?
Well, it depends on what they're doing. I mean, like I don't think, at least from a Chamber's perspective, our objective has never been to the construction crews and things like that who are in just constructing the plant. That's not the people that we believe are eventually going to settle here. The ones that are going to settle here are the ones that are doing the operating, hopefully, and the ones that are doing the year-round maintenance here. And I think those are the people that we you know, from our objective, would be the best groups of people to try to entice and make this community their home. And here's a perfect area.
Is there anything else you kind of want to touch on before we wrap things up here?
Well, you know, the only thing we want to say is, from the Chamber's perspective, this is a very good town for people to live, for people to realize their dreams. Yes, we have some, you know, the prices for the houses are takes a little while getting used to, but when you compare it to the paycheck, in most cases, proportionally, they're still not too bad. What we're seeing here is, like we're seeing in this neighborhood, we're seeing a lot of what we call mixed-use housing. So you see a lot of semis, you see a lot of fourplexes, but you also see single-family homes, and that's hopefully that will allow people to choose their own affordable option.
Well, thank you very much, Nick, for joining us on today's show. We appreciate having you here and explaining everything about the development of Wood Buffalo.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, Doug.
All right, well, that wraps up another edition of Mingling with the Municipality. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at ShawTV4MC and hashtag AskShawYMM to voice your questions about the issues surrounding Wood Buffalo. I'm Doug Roxburgh, and we'll see you next time.